It isn't your average inmate who steps out of prison when his sentence is up and then steps right into a waiting limousine. And Nicodemo Scarfo is anything but average, even by organized crime standards. Rita Braver has been investigating a family crime wave. Family ties that bind, family ties that kill.
In the West Texas desert today, a 5'5", 54-year-old ex-boxer finished serving 17 months in federal prison. Nicodemo "Little Nicky" Scarfo headed back toward Philadelphia, where he's alleged boss of the mafia. And law enforcement officials are bracing for the next episode in a mob war that has left 18 men dead in the last 4 years.
What's new is the amount of violence, the murders that are occurring.
In a way, what's going on in Philadelphia is what's happening in La Cosa Nostra families all over the country. A change in leadership as younger, more aggressive members try to seize power. The difference is that here, they seem to settle matters more by killing than by consultation. It started in 1980 with Angelo Bruno, the aging and ailing mafia chief.
How's your health these days? Not so good.
But it was a 12-gauge shotgun and not poor health that killed off 69-year-old Bruno. So the wars began, and of these 3 men who took control after Bruno's death, only Scarfo is left. Philip "Chicken Man" Testa, blown up by a bomb on his front doorstep. Frank "Chicky" Narducci, shot 10 times. Experts say what's at stake is control of numbers rackets, loan sharking, and drugs. Scarfo is said to want it all, and the battle has narrowed to his side, fighting that of old-timer Harry the Hunchback Riccobini. 2 of Riccobini's relatives found dead just last month. Scarfo appears to be winning, and now that he's out of jail...
As far as the murders, I think it's a matter of when they feel they've accomplished their ends. That particular problem with the other faction will cease.
There will be a close watch on what happens when little Nicky returns to the house he shares with his mom. The attention is not welcome.
Leave us alone. We're not bothering nobody. Leave us alone.
But law enforcement officials are not likely to let that happen. Rita Braver, CBS News.
A man reputed to be one of the most powerful mobsters in the East was accused in court today of ordering killing after killing, accused by one of his own crime captains. Anthony Mason is on the case.
Federal investigators say that since 1981, Nicodemo "Little Nicky" Scarfo has reigned over Philadelphia and Atlantic City as one of the nation's most violent mafia bosses. But the reputed Scarfo crime family may be about to crumble from within. Scarfo and a group of alleged underlings were rounded up on racketeering charges in November, and one member, Thomas Del Giorno, a capo or captain in the crime family, has made a deal with authorities.
He was in a position as capo to intimately know what Mr. Scarfo was doing, why he was doing it.
Today in federal court, Thomas Del Giorno broke the mafia's vow of silence and testified that Nicodemo Scarfo is not only boss of the Philadelphia family, but that he has repeatedly ordered murders to maintain his power. He is the only one who can okay the crime of murder, Del Giorno said, and went on to list 14 hits ordered by his boss. Among them, Frankie Stale Stilitano, found stuffed in a car trunk in 1981. Frankie Flowers Delfonso, shot 10 times in 1985.
It would appear that this individual was eliminated.
Robert Riccobini, murdered in 1983.
Was shot in the back of the head, apparently with a shotgun.
The Riccobini faction had been feuding with Scarfo for years.
He won the war. The Riccobinis ended up not having anybody left on the street to fight their cause.
Even Salvatore Testa, a captain embraced by his boss in mid-1984, was found dumped by the road before the year was out. Del Giorno said he personally arranged the murder on Scarfo's orders. In 1982, Scarfo was called before a U.S. Senate committee.
What do you do for a living?
I invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and decline to answer the question.
Today, Thomas Del Giorno began giving answers in a legal process that federal authorities say will keep Scarfo in jail for life. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Philadelphia.
One of the best-known reputed mobsters in the East is among 28 people accused today of running a drug ring. CBS News correspondent Rita Braver reports now on the latest federal effort to break the mob and the drug traffic and what led up to it.
Early today, federal drug agents in Philadelphia moved with speed to round up a network that allegedly dealt in speed. Methamphetamine, the highly addictive drug that makes the nervous system race. A 46-count federal indictment charges that since 1983, the Philadelphia mob family, reputedly run by Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo, controlled production and distribution of speed in Philadelphia, even import of P2P, the base chemical used to make the drug.
The indictment alleges that approximately 200 gallons of P2P were imported from Germany and from Belgium, hidden in air compressors and barbecue grills.
The Drug Enforcement Administration says that's enough to put $131 million worth of speed on the street. And cracking an organization that powerful took a special set of circumstances. A big break came last July at the federal penitentiary in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Inmate Steve Vento, a Scarfo family associate and major speed dealer, planned a prison break. This videotape, broadcast today for the first time, shows the helicopter Vento hired to swoop into prison grounds and spring him and a friend. But Vento had been set up by federal agents. Once caught in the escape attempt, he became an informant against the Scarfo gang. A few months later, this top Scarfo soldier, shown here on a surveillance tape with his boss, also became a government informant, as did a Scarfo lieutenant. They were both afraid of Little Nicky.
They saw him kill some of his best friends that he grew up with in the mob, that they realized it was only a matter of time before it was them.
The information from informants was combined with data from extensive wiretaps at reputed gang hangouts like Cafe Lido and this VFW post. Officials gathered evidence that Scarfo and his crew used their reputations for violence to force street dealers into turning over 20% of all profits to the gang, and the drug trade brought pain to the whole community.
Society has been the victim of all of this. Those that have been weak in mind to use drugs.
Nicky Scarfo is now in custody on other charges. The federal government hopes today's case will put him away forever. In the meantime, the government today seized alleged spoils of the drug operation, Scarfo's Fort Lauderdale, Florida estate, Casablanca South. Rita Braver, CBS News, Philadelphia.
The reputed mob boss of Philadelphia, Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo, and 8 associates have been acquitted of the killing of a rival gangster. Bill Baldini of WCAU-TV reports.
It was the defense's day in the sun when they heard that verdict of innocent. The defendants threw kisses, their families cried, and their lawyers praised the law.
That's what America's all about. You just saw what America's all about. They knew that these fellas weren't guilty, and they stood up to it, they sat, and they listened, and they did the right thing. God bless them.
At times, the family members were rendered speechless with joy.
What was the reaction when they heard not guilty?
The big question was, would the jury believe that Scarfo and his 8 friends conspired, then murdered former gang member Salvatore Testa back in 1984? 2 former members of that gang, Thomas Del Giorno and Nicholas Caramondi, said they did, but the jury did not believe Del Giorno and Caramondi.
Their name should not ever be put in the same sentence with the word witness again. The use of these kind of people creates crime rather than eliminates it, and rewards crime rather than punishes it.
The defense says it also had to overcome another obstacle, and that is the name and reputation of Nicky Scarfo.
The biggest hurdle is what happens before the cases. The fact that these people are branded before they go into the courtroom.
We tried to talk to prosecutor Barbara Christie or her boss, DA Ron Castile, but neither would comment. A spokesman for the office says Christie and Castile are very disappointed and don't want to jeopardize other cases by commenting.
Bill Baldini of WCAU-TV. By the way, Scarfo faces 2 other murder charges, and he is already serving 14 years for racketeering.
Jerry Penacoli for Ray Murray. Our first story tonight is the tragic tale of a small-time Philadelphia plumber who found himself right in the middle of some of the mafia's most violent business. For Joe Salerno, life has gone from bad to worse. And as he tells Ray Murray, even today, with alleged mob boss Nicodemo Scarfo in jail and constant FBI protection, this plumber from South Philly still finds it hard to sleep at night.
I moved 30 or 40 times in 10 years. I would never move back here ever. This area, my hometown.
It's been 10 years since Joe Salerno left his hometown in South Philadelphia. With a new identity, he's been on the road, hiding in obscure towns across the country, since he risked his life to testify against one of the most violent mob families in the country, led by Nicodemo Scarfo.
He came to power in March of 1981, after the bombing and the assassination of the then boss, Phil Testa.
Frank Friel was commanding officer of organized crime intelligence in Philadelphia, assigned to investigate murders believed to be committed by the Scarfo faction of the Philadelphia family.
With his elevation to the rank of boss or mafia don of the Philadelphia family, a level of violence was rained upon the city of Philadelphia that, at least up to that point, had been unequaled. It was created by the will of Nicky Scarfo, who murdered for a variety of reasons and believed he could do so with impunity.
If it was a well-known fact that Nicky Scarfo was a violent man, how did you get involved with him and the mob?
In the very beginning, being with these people because they were Italian, I looked at these people as being, don't forget, I came from Brigantine, okay? I was a plumbing business there, basically Irish-American, okay? I have problems with the wife and stuff, so my own people I says I want to stay with. At that point in time, going out with them and all that, yeah, I liked going out with them and stuff. Before I really knew what they really were.
Scarfo's men, Philip Leonetti and Lawrence Merlino, implicated Joe with information about illegal transactions, but it was Scarfo who ultimately put the pressure on.
He asked me for guns one day, my own guns, okay? He wanted me to take them from Philadelphia to Atlantic City. And I made up an excuse that I didn't want to. And the guy was outraged. He went nuts.
When did you realize that you were in way over your head?
They told me some of their deep, dark secrets. And especially when he had my guns. Then I was in trouble.
It was Christmas time in December of '79 when Joe Salerno's troubles had only just begun. Scarfo and his men had plotted to kill Vincent Falcone, a building contractor they worked with, for being verbally disloyal and disrespectful. They used Joe as a means to get to Falcone.
He had a phone call. It's Lawrence. He said, he wants you over here now. When he says he, that means Nicky.
On the pretense of going out for holiday drinks, Philip, Lawrence, Vincent, and Joe met Nicky Scarfo at a friend's beach house near Atlantic City.
I don't think we're in the house for 10 minutes. And all of a sudden, Philip Leonetti, you know, comes in front of me, stretches his hand out, or whatever, and he's got a gun in the back of this guy's head and fires it. So, Scarfo gets up off the couch, comes up to me, and grabs me by my arm, and he says, "You okay?" I says, "I'm all right." What was I going to say? He says, "You're one of us now."
Joe was in shock when he drove back to his home. He didn't come out for 3 days until he got a visit from the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office.
They asked me if I knew Vincent Falcone. I said, "Yes, I do." And word's on the street that you're next. We have an informant. That you're next is going to be killed. So I told them, I said, "I know everything that happened." And it's just like, "What?" I said, "I know what happened to Vincent Falcone."
When Joe Salerno agreed to testify against Scarfo and his men for the murder of Vincent Falcone, the jury didn't believe him, and they were found not guilty.
Thank God for the American jury system. An honest jury.
After you testified and they were acquitted, did you feel safe in the witness protection program?
I was paranoid. I mean, even though my name was changed, I went to a different location, different social security number, it's still a hard thing to live with.
What about your family? Were they safe?
He put a hit on my father, which is the biggest mistake that he ever made in his career. Yeah, they shot my father. He lived. He survived it.
Joe's father begged him not to testify against Scarfo again, and Joe promised. But torn between his family's safety and doing the right thing, he eventually agreed to testify at the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organizations trial, better known as RICO. Philip Leonetti and Lawrence Merlino were both convicted for murder and are cooperating with the U.S. government.
Nicky Scarfo presently is incarcerated in Marion, Illinois, which is a maximum security federal penitentiary. He spends 23 to 23 half hours a day in a cell.
Although Joe Salerno's life was virtually destroyed, he feels he got back at Scarfo by helping him get what he deserved.
He's the devil in hell. That's where he is at right now. That's where he belongs. He ruined a lot of people's lives.
Since he's been in hiding, Salerno has missed the funerals of 3 of his grandparents, and he's only been in touch with his ex-wife and sons through a special FBI contact number. Salerno has written a book called The Plumber about his experiences with the mob. He says all the money he makes from the book is earmarked for his sons, since he's convinced he won't be able to share their future.
Kent, South Jersey, Philadelphia area crime boss Nicodemo Scarfo and 9 other associates today lost a Supreme Court appeal aimed at overturning their racketeering convictions. The court, without comment, let stand a ruling that the 10 received a fair trial and were not subjected to multiple prosecutions or prison terms for the same offenses. Scarfo was serving life in prison for a murder conviction, along with a 55-year sentence for racketeering and 14 years for conspiring to extort $1 million from developer Willard Rouse. Others convicted in the racketeering case are serving prison terms from 30 to 45 years.